Welcome to MSP lecture series on the chemistry of main group elements. In today's lecture, I will be discussing about halides of group 14 elements, and among group 14 element halides, so far we discussed a few reactions. Let me continue from where I had stopped in my previous lecture. Now let us consider compounds having carbon halogen bonds, and here for example I have taken one alkyl halide. You can see the reactions of alkyl halides, especially some of the reactions with metals, both main group and transitor elements, to form a variety of compounds through oxidative addition. And one such important reaction is when this alkyl halide is treated with magnesium, it forms Grignard reagent, that is CH3MgBr. Of course, I will be talking more details about Grignard reagents while discussing organometallic chemistry of main group elements. And now, similar to Grignard reagent, one can also form with zinc by oxidatively adding alkyl halide to zinc. You can see CH3ZnCl is shown here. And of course, oxidative addition of alkyl halides to transitor metals is one of the important step in homogeneous catalysis, also known as oxidative addition reactions. Of course, in order to perform oxidative addition reactions, metal should be electron rich and also it should be coordinatively unsaturated. And since oxidative addition is a 2 electron process, metal should have 2 stable oxygen states with a difference of 2 electrons. And also it should be able to increase its coordination number by 2. In that case, oxidative addition can be performed on a particular metal center. This is a preliminary step in homogeneous catalysis. In this case, of course, when we talk about oxidative addition reactions, we come across 2 different type of oxidative addition reaction. One is the homoleptic addition of a molecule to the metal center through 3-centered concerted bond formation, that is called 3-centered concerted oxidative addition. The second one is nucleophilic oxidative addition reaction, and concerted addition happens with those molecules which have non-polar bonds like CC bond, or less polar like CH bond, okay, or HH bond. When we consider polar molecules such as methyl iodide, in that case what happens, CH3 carries a plus charge and X carries a minus charge. In that case, when we take such molecules to the metal, especially a square planar complex having 2 electrons in its dz square orbital. So then, so this CH3X, after polarizing CH3 plus, here let me show that one. Let us consider a typical square planar complex. So, it is a dz square, we have 2 electrons are there, and when we add here MEX, so this will be essentially delta plus and delta minus. So, here essentially, so this attacks here and then this goes here, and this leads to the formation of these are some ligands like triphenyl phosphine, and now here positive charge is generated. So, now this is attacking here. So, this is a nucleophile. So, hence it is called nucleophilic oxidative addition. Very important reaction in homogeneous catalysis and also in organometallic chemistry. So, of course, in that context, alkyl halides are very useful in a variety of cross coupling and carbon-carbon bond formation and carbon adjoint bond formation, etc. And let us look into carbon tetrachloride. And carbon tetrachloride, when it is treated with aluminum bromide, one can generate carbon tetrabromide. And similarly, one can also make carbon tetraiodide. For example, carbon tetrachloride on treatment with aluminum bromide, aluminum tribromide, it gives carbon tetrabromide plus aluminum chloride will be formed. Similarly, if carbon tetrachloride is treated with 4 equivalents of ethyl iodide, it leads to the formation of carbon tetraiodide plus ethyl chloride. Okay. So, one can also make carbonyl halides like COCl2, that is also known as phosgene. Okay. So, this can be essentially made by treating CO gas with chlorine and over charcoal heated to 200 degrees centigrade. CO gas plus Cl2 gas, charcoal, it gives COCl2. Okay. Of course, it was used in the First World War chemical warfare. It is a very highly toxic gas, and this is the large scale preparation method. So, CO gas is directly combined with chlorine over charcoal heated to 200 degrees centigrade. Of course, this is a very good intermediate in organic reactions. A few of them I have shown here. Carbonyl chloride or phosgene on treatment with water undergoes hydrolysis to give carbon dioxide. On treatment with alcohol, it gives anhydrides, and also it can be fluorinated using antimony trifluoride. Okay. One can also generate RnCO by treating with primary amine. With primary amine, one can also substitute 1 to get this amide. One can also make urea by treating phosgene with ammonia. So, urea can also be made. So, these are the few reactions of phosgene. Silicon and chlorine reacts to give SiCl4 and SiF4 can be obtained by fluorination of SiCl4 using SbF3 or by reaction of SiO2 with calcium fluoride in acidic medium. That means, we take SiO2, treat this one with calcium fluoride in presence of sulfuric acid, to generate SiF4. Okay. And of course, both silicon tetrafluoride and silicon tetrachloride are molecular, having tetrahedral structures. They react readily with water, but SiF4 is only partially hydrolyzed. For example, we take SiF4 and reacts with water. Besides formation of SiO2, we also get hydronium ion plus hexafluorosilicate plus 2HF. But whereas in case of SiCl4, complete hydrolysis occurs. Okay. So, silicon halides are essentially mild acids and add 1 or 2 ligands to yield 5 or 6 coordinated complexes. For example, if you consider again SiF4 with fluorinating agents, it gives SiF6 2 minus. Okay, so that means here you can see how Lewis acidity of halides can be explained. Similarly, germanium tetra halides can also be prepared by direct combination of germanium with the corresponding halogens. At 298 Kelvin, germanium tetrafluoride is formed. Germanium tetrafluoride is a colorless gas, whereas germanium tetrachloride is a colorless liquid, and germanium tetraiodide is a red orange solid, and germanium tetrabromide melts at 299 Kelvin, and of course germanium forms stable dihalides as well, germanium difluoride like GeF2 or GeCl2 and also GeBr2. So these are prepared when germanium tetrahalide is heated. Germanium forms stable germanium fluoride, germanium dichloride, germanium dibromide. Essentially they can be produced when germanium is heated with germanium tetrahalides. For example, if you take this one and if you heat this one with germanium, okay, so germanium tetrahalides are heated with germanium, it gives dihalides. Here X can be fluorine, chlorine or bromine, but germanium dihalides are unstable. On heating they undergo disproportionation reactions. For example, let me consider germanium diiodide reaction here. So this is a typical disproportionation reaction. Tin tetrafluoride can also be prepared starting from SnCl4 and HF. For example, SnCl4 when it is treated with 4 equivalents of HF, it forms SnF4 through formation of 4 equivalents of HCl. So this is one of the method used for the preparation of tin tetrafluoride. So at 978 Kelvin, SnF4 sublimes to give a vapor containing tetrahedral molecules. Tin 2-fluoride is water soluble and can be prepared in aqueous medium. The solid state structure of SnF2 would be interesting. Okay, so basically what happens, it undergoes cyclization to have a tetrameric structure with each tin being trigonal bipyramidal, and of course if it is trigonal bipyramidal we have to go for valence shell electron pair repulsion theory to see, although it is 3 coordinated, why it is trigonal bipyramidal. That can be explained using a simple calculation. So this is how the structure looks like. Okay, so you can see here in this one, if you start counting the number of electrons here, tin, if you consider, tin is of course S2P2. So we have 4 electrons are there and 2 electrons are coming from 2 fluorine atoms. So we have essentially 6 are there. Out of 6, basically what happens, we have 3 pairs are there. This is a steric number. Out of that one, what we have is 2 bonded pairs are there. If we consider SnF2, 2 bonded pairs are there. That means essentially we have 2 SnF bonds are there and 1 lone pair is there. So this one lone pair is there. Trigonal pyramidal structure is there. So in this one, basically one lone pair will be projected upwards on this one. So we have something like this here. Okay, so another lone pair will be here somewhere on each one. because of the presence of a lone pair on this tin, so it assumes the geometry trigonal bipyramidal. So, this lone pair will be somewhere here sitting on it. Okay. So, tin halides will be interesting to look into the structure. In gas phase, it exists as a discrete monomeric species, and also it is known for formation of the adducts like SnX4 on addition of a halide, it forms a trigonal bipyramidal molecule, and on addition of one more it will go to the octahedral geometry, and this is very similar to SF6 or SiF6 2 minus, and in solid state it has a one dimensional chain like structure like this. Again you can see here trigonal pyramidal with lone pair occupying one of these orbitals here. Lead tetrachloride is essentially obtained as an oily liquid by the reaction of cold concentrated sulfuric acid on ammonium hexachloroplumbate. So, this is how lead tetrachloride can be prepared by treatment of ammonium hexachloroplumbate with cold concentrated sulfuric acid. PbCl4 is hydrolyzed by water and decomposes to form PbCl2 and gives Cl2 when gently heated. Pb2 plus halides are considerably more stable, PbCl2 for example, than their Pb4 plus analogs, that is tetrahalides, and of course tetrahalides are very oxidizing in nature. Of course lead dichloride can also be prepared by mixing aqueous solution of soluble halide and soluble Pb salts, for example Pb nitrate, lead nitrate in aqueous medium. When it is treated with sodium chloride, it forms PbCl2 . So, in the solid state lead chloride has a complicated structure with 9 coordinate Pb centers. So, let us look into one more type of silicon oxygen compounds doped with aluminum. They are essentially called aluminosilicates, occur naturally as clays, minerals and rocks, and zeolite aluminosilicates are widely used as molecular sieves, catalysts and catalyst support materials. The molecular sieves are crystalline aluminosilicates having open structures with apertures of molecular dimensions, and zeolites are aluminosilicates with tetrahedrally connected framework structures and based on corner sharing aluminate AlO4 and silicate SiO4 tetrahedras. Zeolite can also be considered as pure silica framework with 1 or 2 silicon atoms substituted by aluminum. So, that means here basically what happens when Si4 plus is changed by Al3 plus, it gives overall negative charge to the framework, and this has to be balanced by a counter cation. So, basically what happens, we are adding some counter cations in the form of alkali metals or alkaline earth metals. A simplified empirical formula for an aluminosilicate can be represented using the formula M So, this is a typical molecular formula for aluminosilicate. that's a zeolite. And essentially these structures have channels and cavities of different sizes. Molecules of appropriate size may be trapped in the holes, and is this property that makes possible their use as selective adsorbent, and also in the separation of different organic molecules, especially orthosubstituted, parasubstituted, metasubstituted aromatic compounds as well. And these kind of zeolites are called molecular sieves. In the hydrated state, all the cavity contain water molecules. Of course, one can heat it to about 350 degrees centigrade under vacuum to remove water molecules to generate anhydrous molecular sieves. So, this is how the typical zeolite looks like. Okay, so this also this one unit we call it as sodalite structure. This is how the cages in zeolite look like. So, let us look into one important compound, tetraethyl lead. Tetraethyl lead was essentially prepared by the reaction of ethyl chloride with sodium lead alloy. Okay. So, earlier it was used as an antenna compound as an additive in the petrol that was used in automobiles to improve the quality of gasoline. Of course, after looking into its toxic effect and also its impact on atmosphere, it was banned in 1985, and it is no longer used anywhere as an additive, and instead less toxic compounds are added as anti-knock into the gasoline or automobile fuel. Another important compounds are freons. They are nothing but chlorofluorohydrocarbons, or also called CFCs. They are used as freons. They are unreactive, non-toxic, and are widely used as refrigeration fluids and also as the propellant in aerosols. In the upper atmosphere, freons undergo a photolytic reaction and produce free chlorine atoms or radicals. They decompose ozone, and as a result what happens, it depletes the ozone in atmospheric ozone layer. For example, the type of reactions that happens in upper atmosphere that is responsible for the depletion of ozone can be seen in this reaction here. CFCl3, CF2Cl2 or CF3Cl are essentially called freons or chlorofluorocarbons. So, they on exposing to sunlight, they generate radicals, and this radical will react with ozone very rapidly to form oxygen molecule and ClO, and this one what happens is it generates Cl plus O, and also ClO can also generate Cl plus O2. So, like this, and then this Cl again goes here and again involves in further decomposition of ozone. So, because of this one nowadays the usage of fluorocarbon has been discouraged. Alternates are used as refrigerants. So, now before I conclude, let me look into a couple of questions here. Here is a question, you can see that one. complete the following chemical reactions with balanced equations. For example, if you take tin and treat with excess of iodine, what happens? Beryllium carbide treat with water, carbon tetrachloride with water, diethyl dichlorosilane reacts with lithium aluminum hydride. One can give the products here. For example, tin with excess of iodine, it forms SnI4, and beryllium carbide with water of course one has to two equivalents of water, it gives CH4, you take here two equivalents of water, and under normal circumstances CCl4 with water, no reaction, no hydrolysis, and diethyl dichlorosilane with lithium aluminum hydride leads to the formation of diethylsilane. Okay, so this is how one can complete the reactions using a balanced chemical equation. So let me summarize the chemistry of group 14 elements. Group 14 members lie in the center of the main group elements and show remarkable differences from the lightest element carbon to the heaviest main group metal lead. That means always you can anticipate this kind of anomaly between the first element and rest of the elements. That we are observing all through p block elements and as well as s block elements. The +4 oxidate dominates the chemistry of carbon and silicon, whereas in case of heavier ones +2 oxidate comes into the picture, and especially in case of lead, because of inert pair effect, lead is more stable in its +2 state. Hydrocarbons with carbon in -4 oxidate are thermodynamically unstable and are an important class of compounds and has constituted organic chemistry. Germanium, tin and lead form compounds with both +2 as well as +4 oxidates, but lead 4+ compounds are oxidizing. PbO2 is a very powerful oxidizing agent and inert pair effect dominates in lead. P-pi bonding and catenation are important for carbon and less important for heavier elements. For silicon, SiO bond is very strong, resulting in a wide range of polymeric oxides with numerous applications. We come across all kind of minerals that are present in the earth crust, which accounts for 90% are essentially coming from silicate minerals. Okay. Lastly, while discussing in one of my previous lecture, I did mention that carbon tetrafluoride and carbon tetrachloride are thermodynamically unstable with respect to hydrolysis. That is very much true, but just now I wrote an equation where I stated that CCl4 does not undergo hydrolysis. That is true, it is because of the kinetic inertness we come across in case of CCl4. Under normal circumstances it does not react with water, only under drastic conditions it undergoes hydrolysis, whereas in case of silicon tetrachloride hydrolysis is very facile because it can increase its coordination number from 4 to 6. As a result, it is possible, whereas in case of carbon tetrachloride it is not very easy to increase its coordination number when water essentially comes and coordinates to CCl4 prior to hydrolysis. As a result, it is kinetically prevented from undergoing hydrolysis. Otherwise, strictly speaking, from thermodynamic point of view, both carbon tetrafluoride and carbon tetrachloride are unstable, okay, with respect to hydrolysis. With this, I conclude the chemistry of group 14 elements. So, in my next lecture, I will be discussing the chemistry of group 15 elements. Until then, have a pleasant reading of inorganic chemistry. Thank you very much.